apply my heart to wisdom. Teach me to walk with you so that I won't, please.
I had a question.
Yeah, sure,
Sorry,
sure.
I
Ask away.
I wrote it down.
Yeah, sure.
Because you talked about how we have a miracle inside of us and we have our own experiences with God that makes our relationship with Him authentic. And I'm thinking of people I know who believe in the Lord and have the Holy Spirit, but they haven't really gone into their relationship with Him. So my question is, do you think people who haven't had those authentic experiences, do you think that's one of the main reasons why they don't do further into Christ? Because it's like, well, I don't speak in tongues. I don't have a miracle inside of me. So does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And here's how I'll answer that, because I don't want to be offensive to the sincerity of the relationship they have right now. Right. So I don't want to say to anybody that the relationship you have now is worthless. The relationship you have now is absolutely valuable, because it is the well that you will pull from to get to the, for lack of a better word, deeper place. Right. But what you have to be is unsatisfied with the place you are now. You have to be. You can't just make excuses for where you are. If God did not intend for you to have that experience, He would not have put it in the book. Yeah. What's it there for? Please.
So say someone was on their walk with Christ, and it was like that valuable relationship, but they were to pass before they were ever to have a miracle inside of them. Would you say like they were saved, or?
Good. So I am going to answer that question by the story I'm going to tell you. Right. So it's my job to explain this book the way that it's written. Right. A lot of people have died before I get to explain it, and they're going to continue to die afterwards. Here's my story. I'm a part of a ministerial alliance, and it's one of my great mentors is actually a Baptist minister, and I go to these meetings every Monday, and there was a man there named Roland R. Jennifer. He pastored a church for 43 years in Pasadena. And he died. And I loved him. He was wise and encouraging to be around. And the kind of man that I wanted to be like when I grew up. Like, when I'm 83 like you, that's about how I want to be. Right. So I went to his funeral, and I'm crying. Absolutely crying, because I know that I'm going to miss this guy, miss his fellowship, and miss him, who he is. And then I hear, well, is he in heaven or not? He's not one that believes the same way you do. Is he in heaven or not? And my answer was, Lord, he's in your hand, and only you know. I know what this says. And he interpreted it the way that he did. And it's up to you to figure that out. I can't say anything about that, because there are all these people testifying about how this man helped them have a relationship with you. And I cannot justly say that you will turn him away. If you do, you're absolutely right about doing it. Right? Because whatever the Lord does is the right thing. Is the right thing to do. If he were to turn me away, it would be the right thing to do. But I'm trying to live so that he doesn't. Right? So that he has no reason to. So those types of decisions, and this also falls in the same vein as those who are on their deathbeds and they're wanting to make confessions right before they die, and all of this kind of thing. There was also another man that we ministered to for 2 or 3 months. We would go by his house, and he was dying of AIDS. Well, he was dying of cancer, but it was age-related cancer, and he was atheistic until he started dying. And once that happened, he really started trying to wake up and trying to see God as a reality. Try and maybe fix this before he checks out. Right. He died. So I leave his soul in the hand of a God that knows what to do with him. So that it doesn't, and I know it seems obfuscative to do this, but it's the best answer that we have right now for situations like that. It's to leave the individual soul in the hand of a God who loves him and knows what's best for him. That does not in any way excuse those of us who know better from doing better. And this is the reason why the subject of preaching and teaching exists in the first place. So that we don't all take off in our own directions and luckily happen up on something that's been there for us the entire time. It's my job. It's my job to build the house and then walk you through it and go, hey, look at that. Isn't that cool? Hey, look at that. Isn't that cool? Hey, woo, wait, look at that. Isn't that cool? That's the job. Now, if I show you what's in the house and you reject it, that's one thing. But if you've never been exposed to it and you just kind of do the best you can with it, that's a complete another, in my mind anyway. So I hope that answers the question. I wish I had a better answer, but that's the one that's best, because that one is really hard. It's really hard to watch somebody that you're related to, who in your mind has done the best they can. Grandparents or moms and dads and uncles and so forth have done the best they can as far as you know, but left here without the miracle in them. And those are some very tough funerals for me, because I want them to have it so badly, but God knows what to do with them, and I trust him to do what's best.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
That was a topic that sort of came up this morning, and I brought out how they say that, I guess us in this time, we're going to do greater works than what they've seen, done like in the Bible. So I posed a question. Many of us, who, we live a faith-based or Christian-based life, but we go out into the world, we have to work, we have to shop, we have to do things, and we interact with people who may not, have the same belief systems that we do, but we still have to interact, cohabitate, be around these people. And I just posed a question like, how do we, well, not even necessarily a question, because I know that I sort of have the method. And I know the group that I was speaking with this morning, they kind of, I feel like they're getting a little bit sidetracked in just thinking that they can only interact with people who are believers and that they have to be limited in that way. When in actuality, God, he has to deal with the non-believers as he does, with the believers. He just deals with them, differently. So I just brought that up to maybe just say that, not really to pose a question, but it is a discussion topic that
I wish we would kill this us and them mentality. I really do. I wish we would kill this us and them. There is no us and there is no them. You know, we're all rowing this together. You know? And just because the Lord has afforded me the grace to have a certain level of knowledge that I want other people to have that they don't have, that is no cause whatsoever for me to isolate myself from them and to consider myself above them, whoever them may be. Because then that turns us into some sort of classist society of church people. We believe this, therefore we're better than you. Do you know what the Bible calls that? Filthy rags. Because you're dependent on what you know about God to stratify yourself. When He has only asked you to do one thing. He has only asked you to love Him. And He has only asked you to love other people the way that He has loved you. And the way that He's taught you to love yourself. We have to do better. Help us do better. By all of us, right, ma'am?
I just wanted to ask you a question because I don't know, I really like open. I like people, and I like encouraging people. But my concern is, okay, you do your best to help a person, but they have an alcohol issue. And I guess the way I was raised is old school. We weren't allowed to interact with that at all. So that's never been a part of my life. Not that I'm better, but my parents just weren't going to do it. So when somebody's drinking or drug better, I don't put them down because everybody's in different places. But I try to encourage them as they love. But when it's a consistent thing, and then if you don't give them money to support that habit, they don't understand. Well, it's just a casual social drink. But the way I was brought up, that your body's a temple of God, and you represent God. So why don't you damage and poison or something like that? And, you know, it's just like that. Even though you're a Christian, and I'm a Christian, I'm not judging you, but that's just something I don't agree with. I don't drinking, drugging. That's not my life. It never has been. So. And then if I don't do it, then you have to be angry. You say I don't care. But I'm like, well, I'm there for you. I said, I'll be happy about anything that said me. I like dessert. And I'm diabetic. And I said, if I keep asking you to buy sweets for me, you know I can go into a coma. And you don't do it, I get angry at you. That's, you can understand that is like, to me, it's detrimental to me. It's detrimental to you to drink.
Okay. I think I'm clear on your question. So let me approach it from this perspective. Here's on the subject of authenticity. People used to say to me, well, you should do X because you're a minister. You should do Y because you're a Christian. And if you don't do X or Y, that means that you're somehow less of a Christian or less of a minister than I think you should be. Okay. Guess how long it took for me to get mad about that? Because when you have an authentic relationship with God, the only ones who determine what that relationship is you and God. So now I go to the gas station and I pump my gas, and I happen to be wearing my suit because I just came from church. Right? Can I have money? No. Why? Because I don't want to give it to you. I just don't want to. You're not being a good Christian. Now I'm going to talk to you for about a half an hour about how you should never say that to me. Right. Because that becomes manipulative. To use my values, to use your perception of my values against me so that you can gain something by it. It's not cool. If I want to give you, I give you. If I don't, I don't. It's my money that I worked for. Right. And you don't get to use Jesus to get money out of my pocket. So, people will always do that. People will always, even the Bible is clear, the poor you will have with you always, right? But you have to be able to gauge what your relationship with God is, and don't let anybody pressure you into being what they want you to be because of what their perception of what your relationship with God should be. They don't determine what your relationship with God is. You do. By how you choose to live. And just because you don't support someone who wants to do something unproductive, if they get angry, they're not angry with you, especially if this is an addiction. They're not angry because they're angry with you. They're angry because an avenue that they are chasing down to fulfill the addiction has said no. Now they're in a frenzy trying to find another avenue. So don't take that personally either. You just have to live for God the best way that you know how. In the hopes that the wonderful thing about the truth is when you want truth, God will always guide you to it. You could be chanting to Buddha, but if you want truth, God will always guide you to it and use the circumstances of your life to get you there. He will always do it. Anyone else? What time is it? Am I? Okay.
I was just going to interject for the young lady who said that she has someone struggling with addiction. They have classes for that, and I think that you don't necessarily have to be the person with the addiction, but if you just want support services on how to deal with people with addictions, they have classes.
So, that's what I wanted to say. A lot of us have family members or friends, and I think that's the best way to go is try to learn how to deal with it from a more professional standard. But I will say this: you can only help people who want help. Now, I mean help getting better, not help continuing to stay bad. Right. So if you have to let that individual, if you have to put some distance between you and that individual, then that's probably what you have to do for now. So that their issues don't become yours. Your shoulders are only so big. Yes. Anyone else? Anything else? Any comments or questions from the online group? No? All right. Yes? Go ahead.
Is there a Kyla? Kyla? Well, there's somebody in the car that's waiting in the passenger seats.
Not me.
You
Yes,
just
sure.
touched on it by saying, by basically telling like sometimes you have to distance yourself, so like their problems don't become your problems. And then when you were saying like the you versus them, like as people who are walking with Christ, how do we like not? I don't want to say like separate ourselves from people that are indulging in other things, but how like do we deal with that when we're like in the body?
So we developed our us versus them mentality because the Bible makes certain statements that if you read them with a kind of a self-righteous lens, that's exactly where you'll end up, right? So what fellowship does light have with darkness? Be not unequally yoked together with unbelievers and all of that kind of stuff, right? So if you want to fractionate yourself, and if you want to fractionate yourself as a group, then you can certainly utilize those scriptures to do it. It ain't right, but people have done it, right? And that's one of the challenges that the modern church has, is to undo the fractionation that we've set up in the past. That said, if you are going to undo one system, what are you going to replace it with? My answer is authentic relationship, right? I'm in relationship with you. I'm in relationship with you. We're friends. We're brothers. We're sisters. We're whatever we are to one another. At the same time, this authenticity does not lend itself to being abused. So, if I'm in relationship with someone, then we get to determine, the both of us get to determine what the terms and conditions of that relationship is going to be. And how do you determine what the terms and conditions of your relationship is? You argue. Right? You get into it. Hey, that wasn't cool. Right? I don't like it when. I like it when you. And I don't like it when you. Right? That's us discussing the terms and conditions of the relationship. Now, if I've set a boundary, or if you set a boundary with me and said, hey, listen, Jason, I don't like it when you. And I keep crossing that boundary, then you can decide to help me better understand what your boundaries are, or you can decide that I don't want help at all, that I just want to cross your boundaries and be freewheeling with your heart and with your emotions. So then you have to decide what you want to do next, whether it is to stay in a relationship with that individual or to put some distance between the two of you. And I'm sure that there are a number of ways, a number of iterations of that thought, of that continuum. But Christianity, I should say this too, Christianity is nobody's excuse to abuse. Your Christianity is nobody's excuse to abuse you. Just because you're living for Jesus doesn't give anybody the right to be abusive towards you because of him. And by abusive, I also mean manipulative towards you because of him. This is not a game that we play. This is our life. And it's life eternal that comes from God. And how dare you use something that is so sacred for your personal gains and to disrespect by disrespecting the boundaries that I've already set up. As a human being, we don't do it by saying, hey, not cool. And when I say not cool, that means you're not supposed to do that again. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. And I'm sorry means I won't do it again. But if you keep doing it, then all of a sudden now I got to change. I have a brother now. He said sorry so many times I don't even want to hear it anymore. Right? But he's still my brother. But whatever you do, don't ever apologize to me, because you say a sorry too many times. I don't want to hear it anymore. Right? And we have to be, the great thing about being His is that He knows how to heal you. He absolutely knows how to heal you. So the pain might come from without, but it doesn't last. It doesn't last forever. The pain doesn't last forever, because He knows how to strengthen you from within. And He knows how to set you back on your feet. He knows how to put strength back in your legs so that you can stand up again. At least on the inside. Yes. He's not so far removed from us. Like the deist would say, the master clockwinder, He's very concerned about what you are going through. And He's very concerned about the inner being. Because that's where He is. And that's where He lives. Yes, on the throne in heaven, all of that. But on the throne in heaven doesn't mean as much to me in my relationship with Him than the fact that He makes His home in me. Right? All right. My body is telling me that I'm tired, and it's time to stop talking now. Let's look to God. Father, we thank You so much for who You are and for what You've said to us tonight. My prayer, God, is that what was said here tonight will strengthen the hearts and strengthen the souls of these Your children. God, strengthen their faith in You. Cause them to walk with You in power. Cause them to walk with You in victory. Cause them to face with bravery and with confidence every situation that comes before them. They can handle it because it's here. And if they couldn't handle it, You wouldn't send it. You wouldn't allow it to be. So God, we thank You. Thank You for the leadership of this young adult ministry. And I pray, God, that their efforts would be multiplied. That excitement and fire would come upon this group. God, that they would tell everybody the wonder of Your grace and the wonder of Your presence in them. God, give somebody that authentic experience this week. God, send somebody into their prayer closet and take their time and allow them to have a miraculous time with you. Make yourself tangible to them. Make yourself real to them. Let them feel your very presence. God, let them feel your very presence in the room with them. Talk with them. God, talk with them. Let them feel your love. Let them feel your peace and the joy that comes from the Spirit of the Lord. And for that we will thank you, we will honor you, and we will praise you forever. In Jesus' name, amen.